course, glad to have you with us. Jake, before we get into all of that, let me first mention that Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports is the sponsor of the Strategy Show. And you can get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points simply by signing up through us. It's very simple. If you just click on the link at the top of the Spotlight Hitters article on awesemo.com, I'll drop it in the YouTube chat as well. It'll take you right there. You sign up, get your Yahoo Sports Rewards points, which are as good as cash, and start playing on Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. No MME, no 150 entries per contest, 10 entry max, some 0% management fees, meaning that the site takes nothing out of those contests. And I believe if you get in early enough in the morning, you'll see those. And even when they don't have that, you've got the 12% management fee, which is an industry low. Well, outside of fantasy draft, but we won't get into that. Anyway, it's a great site to play, especially if you're not looking to use Cruncher. If you like hand building lineups, and you want to have a legitimate chance of winning tournaments with 1 or 2 or 3 entries, Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports is a great place to do that. Great baseball contest, golf contest. With NFL coming up, they're certainly going to have a lot going on there. A ton of huge prize pools and 0% management fee last year. I don't know if they're going to do that again, but those were some incredible NFL contests last year, Jake.
Yeah, those were amazing. I'm looking forward to those. You've got the nice one for MLB, the $3, 1,500 entries. It's about 2/3 full right now. So if you're listening live, go reserve your entries. This is more spots than we usually see open. So people must be snoozing. Take advantage, get in that tournament. And I can't wait to see what Yahoo does for NFL in the next few weeks. I'm sure they'll be coming out with tournaments pretty soon because we've seen some other sites come out with pricing and stuff. And yeah, it's a little early, but the excitement is definitely there if you're looking to play on Yahoo.
So you go to awesemo.com, AWESCMO.com. You'll see the Spotlight Hitters article right on the homepage. Click it, and you'll see the Yahoo link right there at the top of the article. We can't put the Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports link in the YouTube chat, so it's a little roundabout here, but it's easy, makes sense, and it'll get you up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points. That is the sponsor of the Deeper Dive, and of course the Strategy Show, which is what we're doing right now. All right, hey, you like that save? Okay, so we've got a 4-gamer starting at 12 Eastern time, and then we've got a 6-gamer. So we got 10 total games. We'll dive into both of them, cover them extensively as we always do. But prior to that, let's take a look at the lineup study from last night.
Yeah, so familiar name, took down a Fantasy Baseball World Championship qualifier, the 81st edition. Alex Osmo took it down here. Low scores across this tournament. So he took it down with just under 150 on DraftKings.
Wow. How many entries were in that?
So it was 2 max. He obviously maxed it. It looks like I would say about half the people, maybe a little less than half, maxed it. So pretty level playing field. You see.
So what were there, like 200 total entries or something?
There were 65 total entries.
Oh, okay.
So small tournament. I think $850 buy-in up here, and really low scoring night in this tournament. I think that's because some of the chalk failed, so you'll see lower scores on that kind of night. But we'll look and see what Alex did with his 2 different lineups, and this might be something you guys might want to implement in a 3-max strategy or so, just avoiding a lot of overlap. You see his first team right here, the team that won it was a 5-man twin stack. Well, 4-man, including the pitcher. It became a 5-man with Barrios, and then 3-man Rangers with that. So it seems like that lineup worked out pretty well. One off G-Man Choi. So basically a 4-3-1. 2 separate teams that he stacked in his other lineup. And Alex talks about this, I think, in the diversification primer. He talks about how you want kind of 2 opposite events occurring. You want to have both of those covered. Or not 2 opposite events necessarily, but 2 completely different events happening. So you're more covering your bases. So he has a 5-man Cubs stack in his other lineup, and obviously that lineup didn't end up mattering because it scored 47 less points. But you kind of see the strategy that he uses in a winner-take-all tournament like this qualifier here.
Yeah, even with 2 entries, getting it done. Impressive stuff. Anything else you want to touch on before we get to these games?
let's see. I was gonna try to look at Adams' win the other night because they couldn't yesterday, but it's not uploaded on Lineup Study. Looking at the $15, one of the worst payout structures you're ever gonna see. But I guess all you got to do is win it, like Shanzan did. So he's one of the premier players in all of the industry. We see some familiar names up here. Tom, let's see, he got a top 15 score. He got 14th, and he cashed over a third of his lineups, made $55 on a $2,250 investment on this $50 tournament, $15 tournament that he maxed. So we always point it out, but man, it is really, really tough to profit in this tournament if you're not getting a top 3 or 5 score, especially when it's 100K to first and 25K to second. Just an enormous drop off there.
It is massive. It's massive. And, I'm hoping that with NFL, they're going to at least give some opportunity to have better pay structures. Like the $8 last year was awesome because it was 150 max and it was like 25K to first, but it was a flatter pay structure, so if you didn't want to the milli maker, if you didn't feel like maxing that out where it's $1 million the first, 100K to second, then like 50, the $8 was a really, really cool contest. And they had a couple of them. I'm hoping they do it again this year. Because if the milli maker is the only one with like really solid top prizes, and by the way, 25, 30,000 is awesome. Like I don't need to max out the milli to take $1 million up top and lose my ass if I'm not taking a top 10. So I love the $8 structure, and I'm hoping they do more of that for NFL season because there's going to be enough people playing to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, like the Millionaire Maker tournaments are great. They're super fun, and you get a chance at $1 million. But don't forget about these other tournaments as well. If you're throwing a few lineups into the Millie Maker, might be smart to also throw those into a smaller field tournament with a little bit better of a payout structure in case you hit a 99% score, but not a 99.99999 percentile score. It can be the difference between thousands and thousands of dollars, especially in NFL when there's just so much money to be made.
I mean, I can only imagine how many people cashed more than 50% of their entries in the Millie Maker and lost in multiple weeks.
Yeah, it's such a tough tournament. Only a few can do it, as we see.
When it's $1 million up top, I know it pays out 20% of the field, but at the same time, it's not paying out, 40 on 20. It's paying out 30 on 20 to min cash. Not even 35. At least last year it was 30 on 20, which is pretty wild.
1.5x for the min cash.
Yeah.
Yikes. That's becoming more and more standard. At least it was maybe like a year and a half ago to a year ago. I think some of the tournaments have been better on DraftKings and FanDuel. But yeah, that's just kind of where we're at, unfortunately.
Yep. All right. Well, let's jump into it. 4 games on the early, starting at 12:10 Eastern. You got a 12, a 1, a 2, and a 3. So they're really spaced out here, Jake. Let's start with Miami and Minnesota. Michael Pineda on the road against these Marlins at Marlins Park. So pretty favorable spot here. And Michael Pineda has actually looked really solid lately. Outside of this one game where he walked 5 batters, he's actually commanded his pitches really well, or controlled them well and kept them in the strike zone. He gives up a little bit of power, but he also has reasonable enough strikeout stuff, which has looked better lately. We just saw Berrios, who is not a high strikeout guy, go into Miami and strike out 11 bats, allowing 2 hits on 7 innings. By the way, this is exactly what I said about him yesterday. Like, even if Berrios isn't a high strikeout guy, it's very, very probable that he could get deep into this game. Pineda's a little bit different, but he's also cheaper, and it's only a 4-game slate. And on the other side, you've got Jordan Yamamoto, who has been pretty good. He's striking out, right around the batter per inning. He has a K rate this season of I had it, now I lost it. But okay, K rate of 24%, which really isn't that bad. But Minnesota is a really difficult team to really set down in order. What are your thoughts on pitching here? And And where are you going with Pineda in a very favorable spot?
Yeah, I think Pineda makes for a really awesome play on the two pitcher sites, specifically 9,300 on DraftKings. He's 41 on Yahoo, and then 9,300 on FanDuel is a little bit tough, especially when you have Zach Wheeler in that same price range, who I think is just a little bit better of a pitcher. But I think Pineda is going to be a top 2 option for me on this early slate. He's going to be a guy I play a lot as my SP1 on the two pitcher sites specifically. I think really favorable spot against Miami. You saw what a good strikeout pitcher in Barrios, but not a great strikeout pitcher, can do against the Marlins. Like, you can have these huge upside games because they're just really bad against righties and they don't offer much in the way of power, which is something Pineda has struggled with throughout his career. So I really like Pineda here. And then I'm probably not going to much Yamamoto here. I think he's been a little bit lucky, and the strikeout numbers have come down. He started off really, really well, and they've come down just a little bit. But 24% K rate, like, he's been solid, like you said, Laffy, and it is a good pitcher's park. So I'm not just like loading up on Minnesota, but I'm gonna have shares of Rosario and Polanco, who I think are two really good values on DraftKings, and then looking at FanDuel, they're a little bit more expensive than I would like if you're looking to stack up the Twins.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, one of the big things here is with Yamamoto, he's not even that cheap. Like, if I'm going to play Yamamoto, I need to feel like he is discounted enough. And in all seriousness, like, as bad as these guys have been, I'd probably just go all the way down to like Derek Rodriguez if I was going to pay down for a pitcher that wasn't named Wheeler or Pineda. We'll get to that. But it seems like you'd be paying a premium on Yamamoto in a really difficult matchup, even though he has the park in his favor. I really don't like that. I agree with you, though. Minnesota could be interesting here. Yamamoto has been pretty impressive, but I don't think you're wrong in saying we could be in line for some regression. Only 0.64 home runs per 9. His whip is at 1.02. And then if you dig in a little deeper, he's got an 8% swinging strike rate, an xFIP of 5.3 against righties. There are certainly some things here that jump off the page at me. A 207 BABIP against righties, 146 against lefties. I mean, that type of stuff is just not sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have good like batted ball data, that's crazy low for any sort of BABIP for any pitcher over the long term. So it's going to regress. It's not saying he's going to all of a sudden have a 350 BABIP or anything, but against a really scary team in the Twins, I don't think this is a spot that I want to get to Yamamoto outside of being contrarian just to be contrarian, or if the Twins bats all of a sudden become really chalky. But I don't really see a need to get to Yamamoto on DraftKings or FanDuel, really.
Yeah, neither do I. It's not a great spot. What are your thoughts on hitters here all around?
Yeah, so I mentioned Polanco and Rosario, two guys that are look to be underpriced even with the park shift in Miami, 4,500 and 4,400 for those guys. On FanDuel, it's going to be difficult to stack up the Twins because it's not a great implied total for them, 4.5 right now. And then you're paying mid threes or fours for the top 4 guys. Kepler at 4,100, Polanco 38, Garver 33, and then Rosario 36, Sano also 36. So I guess the top 5 guys. And there are some teams that are priced better with higher implied totals even on this 4-game early slate.
Okay. Now, we move to the next game, which features Philadelphia and San Francisco. Waiting on ownership projections, or waiting on an ownership update. When we get it, we'll be sure to let you know. It certainly feels like Pineda and Wheeler are going to be uber chalk on this slate, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, you're going to be able to fit in some quality bats even with those two as your starters, but for sure, those guys will be where everyone looks as their SP1.
Wouldn't even be surprised if like Arrieta gets some ownership. You've got Philly and San Francisco. Phillies are pretty heavy favorites. I didn't see a money line, but I did see implied totals here, so I made one on my own, which, look, 5.5 run total for the Phillies, 4.6 for the Giants. I'm assuming Philly will be like minus 160 or something. It seems about right. Either way, Arrieta should be a pretty heavy favorite here. The guy's been pretty rough for the most part. Strikeouts are through the floor. Matter of fact, he has 4 or fewer strikeouts in 8 of his last 10, 3 or fewer in, I think, 6 of his last 10. Really not inspiring stuff there, but it is a bad Giants team. He is a heavy favorite. What are your thoughts on Arrieta? And we can talk about Rodriguez too, simply because on 2-pitcher sites like DraftKings, he's 4,800 and the cheapest available starter. This isn't to say he's good. It isn't to say that he'll have the protection of pitching at Oracle Park, but it is to say it's a 4-game slate and he's dirt cheap.
Yeah, I think Rodriguez is pretty stretched out too. He went 5 innings last time. I don't have the pitch count in front of me, but like if things go well for him, he could.
So he threw 66 pitches though.
Okay, so you give him like 75, 80 even.
That's what I was thinking, 80. Yeah.
You probably don't even want him throwing more than 80, like going through the order like 3 times, because he's just not a good pitcher. But he's 4,800. He's going to be in play, as will Arrieta, and I think Arrieta is going to be pretty popular. He's $30 on Yahoo. He's 6,800 on FanDuel, and he's 67 on DraftKings. Home favorite against a team that's been hot lately, but not a great team for the season. In the Giants, possibly missing one of their better lefty bats in Dickerson. So both these guys really tough against lefty, or I shouldn't say tough. They have tough times against lefties. Arrieta giving up over 2 home runs per 9 to lefties this season. So I'd be looking to take a bunch of lefties against him if he's popular, which I'm guessing he is. So I would guess I'm going to be underweight on Arrieta and probably a little bit overweight on Rodriguez just because he's dirt cheap and probably won't get as much ownership here.
Seems reasonable to me. By the way, in the minors, we saw him throw 84 pitches on July 25th, July 20th, 92 pitches, July 10th, 77. So he got up to 92 there. I think you could see him above 80, but it really just – I don't think it's the fact of the matter that he's stretched out. It's how long do they want to let him go?
Right.
Because I think he could go longer if necessary. Over that 3-start span there where his pitch count was ratcheted up a little bit, he pitched 15 and 2/3 innings, and he struck out 21 batters. So
wow.
I know it's AAA, but that's kind of encouraging to see, a fair amount of strikeouts there for a guy that, hadn't really been doing all that much of getting punch outs. So that's kind of nice to see, especially at that price.
Yeah, I didn't even realize striking out over a batter per inning, even if he's anywhere close to a batter per inning, 4,800 is probably a little bit underpriced. It's not a really good matchup, especially now you throw in Dickerson into this lineup for the Phillies, just another decent lefty bat. But if he's got, most of the – you're really worried about Harper and Dickerson.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad of a matchup for Rodriguez if you assume that he's better versus righties than lefties. So you kind of know who you want to target against him, but I think he should be at least in the conversation on 2-pitcher sites.
I think so too. And look, Alex has talked about this on the Deeper Dive a lot, that AAA strikeouts are actually translating pretty closely to Major League strikeouts. Well, at AAA in 22 innings, 22 and 2/3 innings, 8.74 Ks per 9 and a strikeout rate of 22.9%. Again, not great, but at the Major League level in 61 innings, 6.16 strikeouts and 15.7 or 6.16 per 9 and a 15.7% K rate, which is really underwhelming. So even if he doesn't get up to like around 9, he should be around 7.5, 8 strikeouts per 9 with maybe a 21% K rate. I think it's reasonable to assume we could see that. And another thing is when you look at some of his matchups, listen to some of these matchups, like at Colorado, and then out of the bullpen against Arizona, Colorado, again, Arizona, the Dodgers again, Arizona, Cincinnati twice. Those were 2 starts. The Yankees, Pittsburgh, Washington. He has a couple like the Padres here, but he's faced a lot of teams that don't strike out. and he's had a pretty tough go. So I don't think it's crazy. I agree with you. 4,800 definitely makes sense. Is Yahoo running all day, or do we have an early slate for Yahoo?
Let me see here. I believe it is all day. Let me see. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
10 game all day that includes, but yeah, so every game.
Well, for 10 games, that's not too bad to run it all day. I kind of like that,
Yeah,
actually.
I used to
Um,
love that when they used to do that on Sundays. All the sites did.
yeah.
But
Oh, yeah, I know. I know. I was now see, I didn't like the 8. I didn't like the 8 p.m. game ever being in it. I hated that. But I liked the afternoon plus 4 p.m. games. I didn't like the 8. Same with NFL. I hated waiting all the way through Sunday night.
made for a fun sweat though. If you're sweating
Yeah,
lineups.
it made for a fun sweat, I guess. But you had to wait all that. I don't know. That's
Remember
for another time.
remember how mad people were when they started implementing that?
Yeah, I loved it from the jump. Like I was very happy with it. But look, from a business standpoint, what they're doing makes sense because you can run milli makers for a solo game.
Yeah.
Like the Thursday night, the first game of the season is not just $1 million prize pool. It is $1 million to first.
Oh yeah, and they're just giving away tickets too on
Yeah,
DraftKings. So
crazy,
yeah.
crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. What are your thoughts on bats here between San Francisco and Philly? The Phillies do have a 5.5 total. Do you have? We just talked about Rodriguez, and I think all of our points are salient. But do you think that the Phillies make sense here? I know you mentioned Harper and Dickerson and such. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean 5.5 implied total. That's tied for the highest right now. So even though we're playing Dickerson, or I'm sorry, even though we're playing Rodriguez, I think you should be looking to guys like Dickerson,
I agree.
Harper, and the full stack is also viable. Like just because Rodriguez is striking out all these guys doesn't mean that you can't have Rodriguez lineups and also have Philly stack. So I'm definitely gonna have both. If I was choosing just one side, I think I'm. I mean, it's tough to say because we don't have ownership, but I think the
We
Phillies
do.
are going to be.
It was just
Oh, we do.
updated. So if you want to
Sweet.
take a look, and then you can make that same point after looking at
Yeah,
ownership, we
let's
can
let's
do
take a look.
that.
Okay,
Um,
so on DraftKings, it looks like. Oh wait, I have the main slate pulled up. Early slate.
Harper is super popular. Arietta, as expected, very popular. Brandon Belt, man, this game. How about this? Posey, Kingery, Segura, Sandoval, all above 20%.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so I think if I was playing like a single entry, and I don't even know that you'd need the salary, but I would probably look to play Rodriguez, just because the Philly's going to be so popular, and I get why, but maybe you stack up like the Brewers or the A's or something like that, and you play Rodriguez, and
So how about this? Harper, Kingery, Segura are all above 20, but then you have Hoskins and Real Muto at 19. So that's 5 bats there. Rodriguez is at 14%. So I definitely think there's merit to looking at Rodriguez here. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Phillies have a solid game here, but I don't think we write Rodriguez off either.
right.
I do want to talk for a second, though, about this Giants team. And here's why. Jake Arrieta is garbage against lefties. I mean, it's bad. And if you're looking for actual numbers, I'm happy to oblige. 2.01 home runs per 9 with a 219 ISO and a 179 whip. Really, really bad. His K minus BB rate is under 3% this year against lefties with a 5.48 xFIP. The only saving grace is that he does get a good amount of ground balls. But my God, Jake, it has been really ugly for Arrieta when facing left-handed hitters.
I mean, the whip is
Crazy.
1.8. That I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that is just terrible. I didn't even realize. I knew it was bad versus lefties, but not. Man, I didn't realize that bad. So I knew the home run problems. These aren't great lefties here for the Giants, but they're. I mean, if Dickerson's in the lineup, I like them a little bit more. And you've got some guys that are okay price, at least on Yahoo. All these guys in the mid-teens, the top 5 or 6 guys for the Giants. So I think they're appealing over there. especially if Arrieta's going to be popular, which it looks like he will be.
It's kind of funny because Arrieta, his batted ball or barreled balls per plate appearance is actually pretty low. It's the same as Zach Greinke. And same as Justin Verlander as well. But you still can't ignore the fact that lefties have done this amount of damage to him. I mean, really look at it compared to righties, Jake. It's night and day. Like against righties, I won't use the term elite, but Jake Arrieta has been well above average when facing righties in terms of on base and in terms of power. Lefties have absolutely been his kryptonite.
Yeah. If you're looking for a cash option, I mean, on every site, Brandon Belt is way too cheap leading off against Arrieta. Probably going to get at least 3 at-bats against him. Man,
do we have a lineup, or are you just assuming from yesterday?
Just from yesterday. I'm just looking at the projected.
Sure, yeah.
Belt leading off.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Belt, if you have him leading off, dude, even Yastrzemski, I'm happy to go there. Brandon Crawford, Sandoval. Look, it's a bad baseball team. There's no doubting that. But it's not crazy either to give them a look. Now, my assumption is that they'll probably also be popular. Belt, yeah, Posey, Sandoval. I guess it's not crazy. Maybe the play here is to go with maybe the play is to look at a Yastrzemski and say he'll probably be a little bit less popular than these other guys based on that price point, because a couple of them are really expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
And last question, are you willing to pay up for Corey Dickerson here?
I am. I don't think he wasn't one of the guys that was above 20%. So I think if you're stacking Philadelphia, 8%, yeah, I like that a lot, because he's not going to be someone that pops in the optimizer, even when you're trying to get Philly stacks in. But I think there's a good chance if the stack goes off that he's a big part of that. So I don't mind paying up for him at all. Lefty against Rodriguez. Give me some of that.
Totally agree. All right, let's talk about the White Sox and the Mets. Zach Wheeler, Michael Pineda. One thing that Wheeler does good, and I know I talk about this a lot, similar to Berrios, except he has more strikeout upside, but similar in the sense that they both can pitch pretty deep into games. Wheeler does a phenomenal job of going deep into starts. The last couple starts haven't been great, 5 and 5 1/3 innings. But before that, 6 1/3, 6, 7, 6, 4.2. That was the Yankees. 7, 7, 7, 1, 7, 6, 7, 7, 6, 7, 7, 6. Like, that is at least something that you can feel pretty decent about when you're facing a White Sox team that just has an incredible amount of strikeouts in the lineup.
Yeah, now you take out Yohan Moncada of this lineup, the scariest lefty bat. So you're looking at Lurie Garcia, Ryan Goings, John Jay, and Yolmer Sanchez as your probable lefties here. Not worrisome at all for Wheeler, and he's the number one pitcher for me by a pretty good margin over Pineda.
I think he has to be.
Yeah, on all sites. FanDuel, the pricing is just $300 difference, so easy for me there. He'd be the cash option on every site for the short slate, and I think even for the all-day slate, you could consider Wheeler in cash on Yahoo, and for sure in tournaments. White Sox striking out at a 25% rate, almost 26% on the season, 150 ISO for this active roster, and an 87 WRC plus. So,
what are your thoughts on pairing Wheeler and Pineda on these two pitcher sites? Because it's certainly not impossible, but it will hamstring you a little bit too.
Yeah, so you would be forced into. I'm trying to see where could you
assuming a good amount of Giants.
Yeah, maybe you could go like Belt, just stack up these top few guys.
But you're right. So let's kind of work this out. Where is it? Where do you think it would kind of herd you into? Because it's going to force you somewhere, you would think.
I think it's going to be probably Oakland.
Yeah, Oakland as well. I'm not huge on them.
Yeah, so you put in like Martini and Chris Davis, maybe Chapman, Grossman type of thing, and now you've got 3,800 remaining. You're probably going to Oakland and San Francisco. So,
yeah, you're probably right.
Two teams that are probably going to come in a little bit over-owned relative to their chances of being the top stack.
What are your thoughts on Dylan Cease here? $8,400 on DraftKings.
I think
On FanDuel, he's 6,100. What's he at on Yahoo, Jake?
let's see here. Yahoo, we've got him at 33. Wow.
Okay, so really cheap on FanDuel. I'd say a little overpriced on DraftKings and reasonably priced on Yahoo. But is it worth going there?
So it's site specific. I think on Yahoo for sure. The matchup is about average Mets 100 WRC plus versus righties. Cease hasn't really missed a lot of bats or gotten a lot of chases. 9.1% swinging strike rate on the season, under 26% chase rate. He hasn't been that impressive, and the Mets aren't like, they may be a bad team, but you're seeing a 5.6 implied total against Cease here.
Yeah.
So I'm more on Mets bats than I would be on Cease, especially on DraftKings. It'd be really tough for me to get to him at 8,400 there.
Okay. Any hitters here? You just talked about Mets bats. Does anything stand out to you that you really like?
Just really all. I mean, Pete Alonso at 5K. He's kind of always priced up here, but I think he goes under owned quite a bit. Conforto, I think, is probably your best option at 4,500. And then I don't have a problem with really any of these guys. I like that the Mets are a little bit priced up here. They're probably going to come in lower owned than the Phillies.
And I must ask, any interest in White Sox hitters?
It would probably just be like one-off power guys like Eloy and Jose Abreu, but I mean, I don't really love the matchup for either of those two guys. So if you're looking to leverage, I mean, sure, take a Chicago bat or two if you're going with like a Pineda Arrieta pairing or something, but it's not something I would ever get too hand building, I don't think.
All right. And the last one here, Scooter Gennett is now a member of the San Francisco Giants. I'm assuming that he picks up, or I'm assuming he takes Joe Panic's spot because Panic's been terrible. What are your thoughts on Gennett here in a good park? Maybe I would assume he probably bats in the middle of the order.
You say Gennett's on the Giants? I missed that.
Scooter Gennett was traded from the Reds to the Giants on Wednesday in exchange for a player to be named later. Yeah.
I feel like I missed a bunch of trades. Like my brother texted me saying the Cubs got Castellanos, and I was like on Twitter, and I just missed all these. They were just popping.
I totally missed the Zach Gallen one too.
Yeah, I mean, just classic Marlins right there.
It really is.
Just trade away your.
But yeah, Gennett's on the Giants. I wonder if he's going to play today.
I don't see him in the projected lineup right now, but if he does play, then yeah, I would love him against Arrieta.
And I believe he played yesterday for the Reds because it was a day game, and then he got traded. So we'll see. It's worth looking into because he's really cheap today, Jay, against Arrieta. I think Scooter Gennett could be one of the best value plays on the slate if he's in the lineup.
Yeah. What'd you say?
And he's been bad, but.
What'd you say he was priced at?
3,300 on DraftKings.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
really, really cheap. I know he hasn't been good. Totally understand that. But I also know that Arrieta can make life a whole lot easier for these lefties. So, yeah, Scooter Gennett is 2,600 on FanDuel. And on Yahoo, he is wait a second.
Is that right?
They have two Scooter Gennett's. Do you see that?
No.
Search his name on Yahoo.
I don't have Yahoo up. I've just got a lineup site.
Oh, okay. But... They have him at $11 and $7. But one of them shows San Francisco. So there's that.
Cincinnati's on the later slate. Okay, that makes sense.
Right. So but his name shows up twice. All right, last one here on the early. Milwaukee and Oakland. Chase Anderson, Daniel Mengden. Do you have any interest in hitting here? And before I ask, in pitching, the implied totals, 4.4 for the Brewers, 4.7 for the A's.
I like the Brewers quite a bit. They are priced up on DraftKings, especially Hira and then Yelich, of course. The rest of the guys in the mid tier, but I don't think they're going to be a stack that people target, and you're going to get a ton of balls in play with Mengden here. Just a 14% K rate so far this season. Done a good job. limiting power, but base runners, he has not done a good job not letting them get on. A whip over 2 so far this season. And if you're going to be hitting with runners on base for the Brewers here, I really, really like that. Looking at some of their ownerships right now, I'm not seeing a ton of guys, really any of their hitters, be over-owned. I mean, Moustakas is the closest at just under 20%, but then you're getting a lot of these guys in the low teens and under 10% for some of them. So I like the Brewers here. What about you?
Yeah, so do I. And honestly, I was just looking for cheap pitching earlier, and I was like, maybe I'll go with Mangden. 4.4 run total is very low in 2019. O.co plays very favorably for the pitcher, but he's going to be around 25% owned on DraftKings on a 2-pitcher site. So that kind of takes some shine off for sure.
Yeah.
Even if I was interested.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, why not just take Rodriguez, I guess? Maybe you don't need the salary. I haven't played around with lineup construction too much, but Mangden at 23%. Like, obviously Yelich, but I just like the Brewers as a stack in general. And then you're getting him against a pitcher that doesn't miss any bats. It's also going to be popular.
For sure. All right. I'm assuming you don't have much interest in Chase Anderson, and if not, what are your thoughts on Oakland bats?
I'll probably get to a little bit of Chase Anderson, but he's also getting popular here.
I know.
It's kind of weird ownerships that we're seeing. Looking at the Oakland bats, Matt Olson sticks out to me at 4,600, and then Chris Davis, I guess we still don't know what's going on with him. He homered 2 nights ago. He's got hits in his last 3 games, so maybe he's starting to turn it around a little bit, but I'm playing Chris Davis for 3,700 basically always until he's a bad hitter for a long time. And he's had a big slump here, but Davis and then Olson, like I mentioned, are 2 guys I really want to target.
All right. So, top stack for you on this early slate. You got just once again looking at the totals right now, 4.5 for Minnesota, 3.5 for the Marlins. That's the lowest on the slate. 4.6 for the Giants, 5.5 for the Phillies, 5.5 for the Mets. So they're tied as the highest. 4.1 for the Sox, 4.4 for the Brewers, and 4.7 for the A's. So not a ton here, but 2 teams up in that 5.5 mark.
I like the Giants quite a bit against Arrieta. Short slate, and you're looking for quite a bit of leverage. Arrieta at almost 30% ownership right now on DraftKings. Yeah, I think I like me some Giants this afternoon here. How about you?
Yeah, I have no issue with the Giants. They're going to be popular a bit, but I really do like them for that lefty power. Like, in all seriousness, I don't think Arrieta is a terrible play either, just because this is still a bad Giants team. But I do like them. I like Philly too. I know they're going to be popular, but it's hard not to like this Philly team today. And then I'd say, just based on ownership, where are the Mets coming in as far as ownership goes?
Let's see.
Oh, they're really high.
Yeah,
at least
McNeil and Conforto and Alonso.
Wow.
So the Mets are the highest owned stack of the day. It looks
right?
like on FanDuel by far.
Ramos, Alonso, Cano, McNeil, and Conforto all above 20%. That's crazy.
Wow. Okay, so there's like a clear top 3: Mets, Philly, and the Giants, and then everyone else you're going to be different.
So yeah. God, it's such a bad idea, but whenever Pineda's on the mound, I'm always tempted to stack against him just based on how much power he allows. He's been a lot better lately, though. Are you buying into it?
I am somewhat. We've always seen him be a good pitcher. I think he's going to have issues with home runs. The problem is if you're targeting against him, where do you go here? Like, which of these guys can hit home runs for?
Oh yeah, I mean it's surely disgusting. There's no question.
I guess Anderson and maybe Starlin Castro.
Yeah, and I don't even know if Cooper will be in the lineup.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of a tough one, but I'm assuming that what's Pineda's ownership at?
Right
39.
now, yeah, 39 on DK. He's going to be popular on FanDuel as well at 33%.
Right. Okay. That's not the craziest idea. I've seen crazier. You want to move on to this late slate?
Yeah, let's do it.
Baltimore and Toronto. Asher Wojciechowski, Trent Thornton being activated from the IL, I believe. And he will start today in Baltimore. Totals for this one, Jake, you've got the Toronto Blue Jays at 5.4 and the Orioles at 5.2. What are your thoughts?
So Asher Wojciechowski is going to be the guy that's interesting here, I think. I kind of thought he was terrible when he came up. Didn't have great minor league numbers or anything. But now, 2 starts in a row, he's shown, or 3 starts in a row, he's shown he's had quite a bit of upside. So he's up to 37 strikeouts in 30 innings so far this season, a 16% swinging strike rate. Chase rate closer to 40%, 38.5 right now. And you're getting a Blue Jays team that strikes out quite a bit against right-handed pitching so far this season. Probably going to see more righties than lefties here for Woj. And it's basically a pick 'em game. So I get the high total against him. But on a pitching slate that looks to be pretty rough as far as guys in the mid-tier, I like him here.
Yeah. It's not the craziest idea at all. Did you mention his ownership?
Is he getting ownership right now? Let's see.
I don't know. That's why.
He's all right.
You're talking about Wojciechowski?
Yeah.
So Asher Wojciechowski.
Yeah, he's getting ownership. 21% right now.
21, yeah. Okay. Is Thornton getting anything? 3% for Trent Thornton against Baltimore.
That's surprising. Just any righty pitcher or any pitcher against Baltimore at under 7K.
It's very strange to me to see him that far down. And it's not like he was on the IL for a while. He's only been on the IL for 10 days. I guess the question is, how many pitches is he going to throw?
Right. Hasn't thrown more than 48 pitches or 51 pitches since the beginning of July 7th.
Interesting. At 3%, I might not be totally against that. Actually, I might have a lot of interest in Thornton just because he's so damn cheap. And Baltimore will give you some strikeouts. I think it's important to see what lineup they're running out there, but 3%, I think that might come up a bit. But it's unless there's limitations that you and I aren't aware of.
Agreed.
What about bats?
Well, you're probably going to see some value bats on the Toronto side. You're looking at guys like Vlad Guerrero, Grichuk forever under 4K on DraftKings, Bo Bichette at under 4K as well if he's going to lead off. So while I like Wojciechowski, some of these Blue Jays bats for a 5.4 implied total make for really nice values on DraftKings. Looking at their FanDuel prices, same thing for the Blue Jays. Baltimore's a little bit priced up across the board. I don't know how I feel about that because, like, my favorite bat's Mancini. He's 3,800 on FanDuel, and then VR is 4,600. Mancini's 5K. Santander is 4,800 on DraftKings. So they're going to be pretty difficult to stack up here. On
Yeah.
DraftKings.
Which makes what you said, Baltimore would be tough to stack.
Yeah.
Which makes Thornton a little bit less appealing. You know, if he was going to be super low owned and Baltimore high, I would have a ton of interest. But yeah, I think for me, the pitching in this one is actually kind of appealing. As you mentioned, Wojciechowski's been very good. There's no doubt about it. Trent Thornton hasn't been very good, but he's also entirely overlooked on this slate. Yeah, normally you'd look and you'd think hitting would be the spot, but I don't think pitching's bad here at all on either side. Let's talk about Boston and Tampa Bay. You got Brandon McKay and Andrew Kashner. McKay, we know he has good stuff. He got knocked around last start, but I mean, this guy definitely still has some upside. I guess the question though is, and by the way, he was just recalled again from AAA, but the problem is he's facing Boston. And I mean, it's really tough to go there, even though his price point has come down significantly. And then Andrew Cashner, the newest addition, or one of the newer additions to the Boston Red Sox. He's facing a Tampa team that doesn't have a ton of power versus righties, but they're top 10 in WOBA and WRC plus.
Yeah, this one's kind of a difficult one. I think Cashner's going to be in play at 5,400 on two pitcher sites on FanDuel. I wouldn't mess around with Cashner, but $5,400 as a favorite. Like, there's your case to play Andrew Cashner and hope he goes 6 innings, because we've seen him do it a bunch of times these last few years. Just one of the more frustrating guys to stack against at times. McKay, I just think it's too difficult of a spot to play him here. I know he's done well striking out righties, 27% in the majors so far this season, but when you're going up against righties like JD and Mookie and Xander Bogaerts, it's really, really difficult to want to play McKay here. So more interested in the Red Sox bats than anything. Looks like a pretty decent hitting environment here in Boston, 83 degrees. Kind of mild weather across the board today, so not sure you're going to get a much better hitting environment than Boston today.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is definitely appealing for both teams. The totals in this game are, I don't know, maybe higher than I would expect. No, you know what? That's about right. Boston 5.6 against McKay. The Rays 5.1 against Cashner. As it relates to the rest of the slate, it's actually Boston has the highest total at 5.6. And then for 5.1 for the Rays is also up there. So I don't know. This will probably be one of the more targeted games just from an offensive standpoint. Do you like anything from Cleveland and Houston where you have Garrett Cole and, dude, he's back, Danny Salazar? I was such a is he going to start? I think he's supposed to start, right?
He is. Yeah, I'm seeing him as the starter.
I was such a huge fan of Danny Salazar, man. Like, he has really filthy stuff, but his inability to throw strikes just decimated him so often. But man, I was always a big Salazar guy. Really tough spot to get your career back underway against Houston. But then again, you have Garrett Cole in a very favorable spot. Not a favorable spot. We just saw what Verlander did against them. Urquidy got blown up, but now you've got Cole. He is priced up. He is your most expensive pitcher, but would you say it's well worth targeting Garrett Cole here, even though he has this difficult spot?
I think it's well worth targeting Cole, yeah. You saw what Verlander did the other day. And like, Cole just has just as much strikeout upside as anyone in the entire MLB. So on a slate where a lot of people are going to gravitate towards Kershaw, and for good reason, Cole and him are at the exact same ownership right now. I think I'm taking Cole for the extra $600 on DraftKings, and I'll make it up the $600 on my SP2 or a bat here or there. He's just got so much more raw upside than Kershaw here. So while I think they both have good games, you could easily see 10 strikeouts here from Garrett Cole, whereas I don't think that's a very likely outcome for Kershaw.
For sure.
And it looks like he's going to see more lefties than righties here in this Cleveland lineup, which is actually a fine thing for Cole. Overall, he's got a 34% K rate versus righties, even higher.
What makes you say he's going to? Yeah, I guess no. You're right. I'm sorry. He definitely will. Yeah, I'm sorry. For a second, I was thinking he's a lefty, and I was like, well, all these guys hit switch, so how's that the case? But yeah, you're right. He's going to face a lot of lefties.
Yeah, 40% K rate versus lefties this season. I mean, just absurd numbers. He's just the best pitcher on the slate by a pretty wide margin, in my opinion. So I'll take the talent here and take the high price on the two pitcher sites. On FanDuel, he is 11.7. That's, man, I think I still prefer him over Kershaw there for 11.4, but it's tough on the one pitcher sites. I'm guessing Kershaw's going to have just as much ownership as him over there as well.
Yeah, I prefer Verlander as well. Or I'm sorry, Garrett Cole as well. By the way, Corey Dickerson not in the lineup for the Phillies.
Why not? Why'd they get him? I mean,
yeah, I don't know. Maybe maybe he didn't pass his physical. Who knows? I don't know. It is a day game, but still, he's not in the lineup, so that's that. I was kind of looking forward to playing a very low-owned Dickerson because of that price,
Yeah.
but what can you do? I'm assuming you're not targeting Danny Salazar here.
No, I'm not playing Salazar here. It's so he's always had a lot of talent. The question here is, can he go deep into the game? And if he goes deep into the game, I mean, it's Houston. So how many strikeouts are you actually getting? It's not like he's free. He's 65 on FanDuel, but one pitcher site, I don't think that's necessary. He's 76 on DraftKings, and then on Yahoo, $30. So you're getting more in play on Yahoo there, but it's Houston just not a matchup I want to mess with on a sizable slate like this. I know it's only 6 games, but you could find better options with teams with less power and all that. So no thanks to Salazar. Houston is a fine stack, just a 5 implied total here. Wind blowing in isn't going to help their cause, but Jordan Alvarez is a guy I would like to play a lot of tonight.
Yeah, I have a difficult time getting there as well. And I don't think that's not even a difficult thing. There's just no reason to play Danny Salazar. But yeah, I agree with you that Alvarez and really as much as I like Salazar's stuff, the guy can't get through 5 innings half the time because he's just nowhere near the strike zone. But it is kind of crazy that Houston only has a 5-run implied total. I would have thought, given today's baseball, that it would be higher, but 5 is not that high.
No,
so that's
really
something to keep in mind.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. And by the way, for what it's worth, if you are looking to get a little bit different, Garrett Cole has allowed a bunch of home runs this year, 22 to be exact. I think I mentioned it last time, like he will give up a solo shot or two because that's what he does. So, if you're on a site where Cleveland bats are discounted significantly, lefties, because of this matchup, or really anybody, if they're super cheap and they have power, it's not crazy to say that, one-offing one of these guys could be worthwhile, but obviously it's a bit of a reach against the best pitcher on the slate. All right, Jack Flaherty, John Lester. I think one of the big things here, Jake, is how many, and by the way, 4.2 runs for the Cubs, 4.4 for the Cardinals, slight favorite. I think the big question is how many lefties are the Cubs going to run out in their lineup? Because as we know, Flaherty is just so much better against right-handed bats, and the K rate is night and day. So yesterday you had Contreras, Bryant, Baez, David Bote, and Kyle Hendricks, including the pitcher that's 5. I guess we'll have to see what's in the lineup today.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So we're showing about 3. I mean, that maybe you get to a 4th. Actually, no. So we're probably gonna have Castellanos, Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, and Wilson Contreras. So those are some pretty good righties. So that's the issue here with Flaherty. But lefty pitcher, John Lester. I mean, he's garbage at the plate, always has been. So not worried about that lefty. But as long as it's a somewhat balanced lineup and they don't just throw out like 6 or 7 lefties here, I think I'm gonna have a decent amount of Flaherty here. 4.2 implied total for the Cubs. That's one of the lower totals.
Very low.
Yeah. And it's not like it's in a terrible hitter's park or anything like that. Flaherty versus righties 33 almost percent K rate, whereas he's at 21%, just under 22 to lefties. So Cubs are a tough lineup, but on a slate where the mid tier is pretty tough to target, I think Flaherty's going to be a guy I get to quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense to me as well. Even decent righties, like I still think it's better than lefties. I mean, obviously it depends on how bad the lefties are, but they've got some decent lefties in this lineup anyway. I mean, with Flaherty though, it really is night and day. Striking lefties out at 21.7, righties at 32.7%. Just huge contrast there. And to me, it will make a difference. We've seen some different lineups for the Cubs recently too, so pay close attention to what lineup they do decide to run out there. John Lester against St. Louis.
Yeah. I hope I don't get here. I hope Alex's projections are not high on him. I cannot stand Lester. I think he's always overpriced and overplayed.
I would agree.
He does get it done though pretty often. I don't know how he does, at least these days. But you're seeing some really cheap Cardinals bats. Goldschmidt versus a lefty for 4,400. I absolutely love. Same thing with Jose Martinez, De Jong, one of my favorite shortstop options as well on DraftKings. These guys are cheap. They're going to be somewhat popular because they're cheap and they're going to pop in optimizers. But I'm kind of with it here on the Cardinals, even though it is a low total. Maybe you stick away from the full stack and just take kind of the best pieces here against Lester because he is still a decent real-life pitcher.
Yeah, he is. He is. He's just not a guy you very much often want to play, and not a guy that you love playing guys against either. So, it's one of those spots that just isn't all that friendly on either side. But if you like some right-handed power for St. Louis, I guess the one advantage is that a bunch of these guys are not very expensive. So there is that. All right, let's keep it going. 2 games to go, Jake. Before we do, by the way, if you want to get 50% off your first month at awesemo.com, Awesemo Plus membership, when you're talking about ownership projections, player projections, the top stack tool, all of which Awesemo, Alex Baker himself developed and uses every day, so do we. Fantasy Cruncher add-on and the lineup builder and all of our premium articles that we put our blood, sweat, and tears into every day. Golf content from Ben Rassa, Jason Roslin, some of the best stuff out there. And really, if DraftKings, if FanDuel, if Yahoo runs contests for a specific sport, we've got content for it, whether it be golf, WNBA, PGA, NASCAR, you name it. All of that at awesemo.com. Also some free content. If you're not ready to dive in, you can dip your feet in first and check out our seasonal football content if you're getting ready to do your drafts. All of that's free, and we've had a lot of fun producing it, and I think it's come out really well. We also have Alex Baker's seasonal football projections that are going to be out soon, which is equally exciting. He definitely takes a different approach than anyone else in the seasonal industry. I'd suggest looking at that as well. So a lot of stuff for free. But if you want to get access to all of the excellent tools we've got at Awesemo, use the promo code MLB Strategy. That'll get you 50% off your first month at awesemo.com. All right, Jake, 2 to go. Cincinnati at the Atlanta Braves at SunTrust Park. Anthony DeSclafani and Max Fried. Anything stick out to you here that you like?
I think Fried is going to be someone I play a lot. 5,800. Guy with some strikeout upside and a low-ish total against him. Just about, Alex has updated rankings and projections now. He's got Cincinnati at a 4.7 implied total. His totals are usually a little bit higher than what you're seeing on some other sites. So I want to really like Fried here at 5,800. He's stretched out. I mean, he could go 90, 100 pitches if things go well, and he showed strikeout upside his last 6 starts. It looks like he's gotten at least 6 strikeouts in 5 out of those 6 starts. So that's exactly what you're looking for here. I think he's just a little bit underpriced, and I don't mind targeting against Cincinnati. The one guy really that you're worried about is Eugenio Suarez at just under 5K on DraftKings. So that's your one leverage point. I don't think I would go crazy and stack the Reds here. But if you're looking for a leverage bat, you kind of know who it is.
All right. So where would you – so actually looking at ownership here, you got – oh, wow. I guess you mentioned that. I just missed it. That Fried right now is the highest projected owned pitcher?
I was looking at FanDuel. Yeah. On DraftKings, yeah, he's just over Cole and Kershaw and Flaherty. But
yeah,
makes sense.
Pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to dispute it, but that's pretty crazy. What are your thoughts on Atlanta bats against DeSclafani? He's another guy, too, that has been dreadful against lefties. I mean, worse than Arrieta. 385 WOBA, 265 ISO. And if my memory serves me correctly, DeSclafani's expected rates are almost equally as bad this season. 3 241 xWOBA. Okay, so a little bit better. 217 xISO, but those are still really ugly numbers. He's allowing 2.37 home runs per nine, a 1.7 whip. Pretty ugly. 51% fly ball rate and 48% hard contact.
Those are the numbers versus lefties.
Yeah, Discofani versus lefties.
So, yeah, 5.5 xFIP almost.
Yeah, brutal.
Almost 2.4 home runs per nine. I mean, he still does strike out lefties at a pretty decent rate. I didn't notice that, but yeah, you would think that like Freeman and Albies would be set to tee off here. So I really love those two guys. On DraftKings, just looking at the pricing here, they're not even priced up that high, especially Albies at 4,200. He's got to be one of the better values of the day. McCann's going to be a popular catcher. And you've got a couple lefties at the bottom of this lineup as well, and Inciarte and Camargo, if they're going to be in there. So I really like how the Braves stack sets up here.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. I mean, the more lefties, the better. But at the same time, Discofani is the type of pitcher that if he can get rocked, and I'll be fair to him, he actually hasn't been that bad. He really hasn't been terrible. But on a slate like this, I think it's definitely reasonable to think that the Braves, who are one of the best offenses in baseball, could go out there and produce really strong numbers. 5.3 run total. Fried's minus 152 at home. So, yeah, both spots are pretty appealing. Anything left on this game before we move to the last game?
Let's see here. I mean, I would include the righties as well in a stack. Like,
yeah, sure.
I know Discofani's good against righties.
You'd have to. They don't have enough lefties in the lineup.
Yeah, so don't just like stack up the 5 lefties just because you want lefties against Discofani. You still have Acuna and Donaldson and Duvall who all have power.
Do you have 5 lefties project? Well, I guess what? Markakis, Freeman, Albies, McCann. Who else? Who am I missing?
Camargo in the 8 spot, possibly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
some of their best hitters are righties, though.
Yep.
So, yeah, it would make it very difficult to get too selective there with just lefties.
Exactly.
Dodgers, San Diego, Kershaw, Joey Lucchesi. Let's take a look at this one. 4.8 run implied total for the Dodgers. They are minus 207, the money line. 3.3 for the Padres. Big road dogs here against Kershaw. Talk to me about where Kershaw is here for you. Facing a Padres team that they're not great, but they are definitely a lot better against lefties than they are against righties. They do have the 8th highest K rate against lefties, but just hear me out for a second. And this is not to say that I don't like Kershaw, especially on this slate, but they have the 9th highest weighted on base average. Their ISO this season is 6th highest in the league, sandwiched in between the Braves and the Brewers. And their WRC plus that sits at, I think, 110 is, there it is, 7th highest. So top 10, top 8 in all of those categories. They have not been bad against lefties. It's just Kershaw should still have a distinct advantage.
Yeah, you would think so. And Kershaw is just a good enough pitcher where he can give up a couple runs here and still probably get the strikeouts. So I think more often than not, Kershaw pitches really well here, and he gets you your 20, 25 DK points. I don't know that it's like a huge upside spot, though, for Kershaw. You mentioned the Padres. They strike out quite a bit versus lefties, but they still have a bunch of power as well.
A lot.
Looking at Kershaw's rates right now versus righties, trying to pull up his K rate. 26%, so that's really good, but it's not like old Kershaw or even like a guy like Cole or Flaherty who's well over 30%. So you are paying pretty top dollar here for Kershaw on DraftKings. So I think he's a safe option. He's probably your cash option here, but for tournaments, I don't know that I'm going to get to 30%, even though he does grade out as a decent value here.
No, it makes sense to me. I also wouldn't be surprised to see Kershaw finish as the top fantasy scorer on the slate, just to be clear. I mean, I really wouldn't, just because lefties and righties, he is just still he's not old Kershaw, but he's still a pretty dominant pitcher. But I guess the biggest thing that comes into play is he will be very popular as well. On FanDuel, him and Cole have the same projected ownership. On DraftKings, they have identical projected ownership. On Yahoo, Kershaw's at 48%, and Garrett Cole is at 19% based on this pretty big disparity in pricing. What are your thoughts on that? Would you go a lot heavier Cole here just because of Kershaw is like, what, 2.5 times the projected ownership?
Yeah. On Yahoo, you mean?
Yeah, on Yahoo.
Yeah, I really like going to Cole. On Yahoo, there's a bunch of good value bats. So the extra $9, while it matters, it's not that big of a deal. They basically project for the same amount of points. They're within a half a point on Yahoo. So I would be looking to get to the more talented pitcher in Cole. We actually have Cole projected for more points than Kershaw on DraftKings, which is interesting.
It is.
But yeah, I just think Cole is a more talented pitcher. I think he can get it done in really any matchup, whereas I think Kershaw needs a more favorable matchup in order to outscore Cole most times.
For sure. What are your thoughts on Lucchesi? Obviously not the greatest spot. The Dodgers are better against righties, but I think for me it's difficult to get to a guy like Lucchesi. So if you're not interested there, if you are, feel free to talk about it. If not, we can talk bats here and head out for the day.
Not really interested in Lucchesi here. Dodgers just a extremely tough matchup for either hand, depending on which lineup they want to throw out here. And their lefties hit lefties so well that it's deceiving, even when they have Muncy and Bellinger in there and Seager. Those guys can all handle themselves against lefties. So tough to get to Lucchesi. Looking at his projection right now on DraftKings, let's see where he's at. Yeah, pretty poor value. We've got him at just 12 fantasy points for 7,400.
All right. Yeah, that's not pretty. What about hitters?
Dodgers bats. I always like a Bellinger one-off. I think a pretty nice price on Yahoo at $20. Turner, probably the best bat here, $19 on Yahoo. Looking at their FanDuel pricing, you're getting some really nice pricing there. $33 for Pollock, $3K for Seager if he's batting second. That's pretty nice. And then Turner for $3,300. So they're actually all priced down the bottom of this order for LA on FanDuel.
So if we're looking at pitching for this entire slate, excuse me, you got Cole, Kershaw at the top, Jack Flaherty. You come down a little bit. You got Max Fried, 5,800. You got Thornton at 6,800. They're like 45% separated in ownership. Wojciechowski is like in the middle. DeSclafani against Atlanta, Lucchesi. Who are your favorite value pitchers here on the night slate?
Max Fried, number one, and it looks like our projections agree with that on the site. After that, it's actually so Thornton's the best on our projections, which I'm surprised to see. It looks like Alex thinks that Thornton can go deep. He's actually the 5th highest projected pitcher on the entire day if you take out Pineda.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's what I would consider relatively appealing.
Yeah, I mean, if he's only going to be 3% ownership, or even if he gets up to like 10, I'll take a lot of chances on Thornton at this projection. After that, wow, it's pretty brutal. I don't even know. It's basically Fried and Thornton, and that's all we're showing right now of guys that are good values.
It does feel that way for sure. And Fried's going to be super popular. Wojciechowski, I guess, is interesting just because he's been very good. But how long does he keep that up? I guess we'll find out today. But there are some strikeouts in this Toronto team, so it's not the craziest idea. And hey, before we head out, we appreciate you tuning in as always. Hit us with a thumbs up. Like the video. If you do like the video, it helps us a lot. It helps support the channel and the site. And we're greatly appreciative of it. Subscribe, hit the notification bell as well so you always know when new content's going to drop next. Jake, I'll let you close us out. What's coming up today? What do we got to look forward to? And what are your final words?
All right. Yeah, make sure you check out those season-long and DFS previews that we're putting out. You, Laffy, and Nolan, and Spags, and Alex, of course, are putting in a lot of work. So Go click on those and check those out. I'm really excited for the rankings to come out. So I usually don't prepare for my season-long fantasy drafts, but I for sure will be this year when we see Alex's rankings. I'll have cheat sheets out. We'll have the deeper dive. You guys will probably be going off at 5 Eastern. And
Yes,
then
sir.
live before lock with Chris Spags and myself. So it'll be a day filled with content.
A lot of stuff coming up as always. Head over to awesemo.com to check out all we have to offer. And if you like what you see, use the promo code MLB Strategy. Get 50% off your first month. All of that good stuff behind paywall can be all yours. All right. It's been fun as always. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Strategy Show.